Evidence begins to accumulate that carbon dioxide is causing dangerous interference in the climate. Currently, 8 billion tons of carbon are added to the atmosphere each year. Through our Wedge proposal, we attempt to keep emissions flat and preserve our environment.
Transportation efficiency will be cost-effective. Making cars energy efficient with hybrid and diesel engine technologies and constructing vehicles out of stronger but lighter materials will also allow automobiles to travel farther with less carbon emissions. Every stakeholder will be relatively happy with this specific wedge, except for the developing country governments, because they are not as technologically advanced as the industrial ones.
An increase in public transportation would greatly increase the revenue for urban transportation companies. In addition, increase would encourage the opportunities that would promote people to use their services, as it would save themselves stress and hassle from driving themselves. All the stakeholders would be relatively happy except for the manufacturers, particularly in the automobile industry, because they would be losing business because more people would be sharing transportation.
Our next wedge is wind electricity. By deploying 1 million large windmills, coal-based electricity could be significantly reduced. The windmills do not emit any emissions or pollutants. Based on the chart, environmental groups would be extremely happy because this wedge is eco-friendly. Manufacturers would also be happy because they would get more business for creating and building these large windmills. Taxpayers and consumers, though, will not be happy. This is because since the windmills are large and there would be many of them, they'd be not aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and they'd be seen possibly in their backyard or in their town.
Wind hydrogen would be effective in the use of cars to replace gasoline and other fuels. However, 2 million windmills would need to be constructed in order to perform the process of electrolysis, which liberates hydrogen from water. This hydrogen fuel would be beneficial for environmental groups because the only emission from the cars would be water vapor. Manufacturers would also be very happy because 2 million wind turbines would need to be constructed and shipped out. Taxpayers, on the other hand, would not be too happy because these 2 million wind turbines would not be very pleasing to the eye for them.
Land, plant, and soils contain large amounts of carbon. Preserving the plant life would provide more areas to store carbon emissions. Halting global deforestation in 50 years would provide one wedge of emission savings. Taxpayers and consumers are benefiting from this because we're not industrializing more land. Environmental groups are happy about this because we're keeping the planet greener.
Nuclear fission produces no carbon dioxide. Adding more nuclear electric plants to triple the world's current nuclear capacity would cut emissions by one wedge if coal plants were displaced. Though it is relatively expensive and contributes to an increase of nuclear waste, it is a promising energy source to supply the world. Based on the graph, everyone is happy because the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages.
The fuel-switching electricity wedge would require 1,400 large 1 billion watt natural gas plants displacing similar coal electric plants. By 2060, 1 billion tons of carbon per year would have to be emitted from natural gas power plants instead of 2 billion tons per year from coal-based power plants. Manufacturers and energy companies would benefit from this because many more plants would have to be created. Taxpayers and environmental groups, however, would not like the construction of power plants.
Hydrogen is a desirable fuel for a low-carbon society because when it is burned, it is the only emission product that has a water vapor. However, this requires building infrastructures to connect the large hydrogen-producing plants with smaller-scale users. The benefits of the hydrogen fuel are balanced by the expensive cost of obtaining the hydrogen, which causes the stakeholders to have a neutral score.
Overall, these 8 alternative energy wedges show the most promise to reduce carbon emissions and make the world a healthier and more prosperous place.